Hi, and welcome to this live reading from the Runaround, a Carolina Connections novel by Sylvie Stewart, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. My Sharona for your secrets. Ari. $10 says she falls off the stage. I looked at Berg and shot him a half smile. My bet is on the guy. He's been shooting Jaeger like it's water for the last half hour. We both glanced back to the couple singing their hearts out to My Sharona, and I fought the wince that threatened. The guy, Brady or something, swayed on his feet as he squinted at the words on the monitor, while the girl, Jen, I think, fist pumped, causing her skirt to ride up, giving the tables in front a nice clear view of her hot pink thong. Lovely. Whoever thought giving drunk white people booze and microphones was a good idea needed my platform heel up their ass. But it's a living, so I shouldn't complain too much. Jen's voice cracked and her ensuing giggle blared through the speakers, drowning out her partner and the background music with its tinny pitch. Okay, so I was totally reserving my right to complain. Jesus. Berg shook his head and finished bussing the table up by my spot at the edge of the stage. I tapped his shoulder. Wait for it. And sure enough, Brady or Brody or whatever the hell his name was dug in for the grand finale and, went stumbling face first right off the stage and onto the hard, sticky floor below. Thank God the stage was only a couple feet high. The entire bar simultaneously covered their ears as feedback slingshotted through the room. That was my cue. I flipped the switch to shut off the song and jumped down from the stage, where I snatched the mic from the guy's hand, not bothering to help him get up. Jen was welcome to do that on her own if she stopped laughing long enough to actually get her ass down there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Jen and Brady. It's Brody, came a groaning mule from the floor. I ignored him. He wouldn't remember this in the morning anyway. A few weak claps sounded from the tables, followed by a series of cat calls and whistles when Jen climbed down and bent over to help her boyfriend up. How did my life end up here? Back at my post, I called the next group up and switched the music on, hoping maybe this couple was sober enough to leave a tip. At least I had the tenor coming from Berg, who just happened to conveniently disappear behind the bar. Great. I blew my hair out of my face and stood up straighter, looking down to make sure my boobs hadn't fallen out of my dress in the chaos. Nope, still there. I didn't mind showing off what my mama gave me, especially when it increased my tips, but I wasn't exactly a fan of the nip slip. A guy had to work a little harder for that shit. This couple wasn't so bad. They picked an old Air Supply song and were kind of killing it, as much as one can kill an Air Supply song, but still. I let my eyes roam the crowd, which seemed to be digging it, a bunch of them singing along. And then my eyes caught on a shock of spiky blonde hair, and my head jerked to a stop. The room was poorly lit, with most of the lights focused on the karaoke stage, but there was no mistaking the head of hair, or that 6-foot frame that appeared at home anywhere it rested. But what the hell was he doing here? I mentally cataloged my look for the night. Skin-tight black dress with a sexy V in front and back, snakeskin platform heels with a spike that could take an eye out, hair blown out into shiny waves, makeup a bit on the heavy side, but this is showbiz, so deal with it. All right, I could work with this. Obviously, I pretended I didn't see him, and only slightly played up my act as fabulous karaoke hostess to the stars with a sparkling personality and wit to boot. But as I got closer to the looming break period, my palms started to sweat. And that never happens to me. Shit. I honestly didn't know what it was about Jax Crosby that threw me into such a tizzy. Ever since last year when he hired me to do some freelance work for him, I'd been way too damn aware of the man. Of everything about the man. The tanned, muscled arms that peeked out from his ridiculously ratty t-shirts, the sly smile that transformed his whole face and made you think he was in on some secret you knew nothing about, and those blue eyes. Damn, those eyes. If his smile kept a secret, his eyes told you an entire story, one that had a lot of dirty sex in it. The few times I'd sat beside him, showing him various features of the website I designed for him, I swore his skin was charged with electricity, drawing all the hairs on my arms toward him. I could hardly keep my focus and ended up babbling and messing shit up, something I hate doing. But I suspect he knew and probably enjoyed it. That was months ago, though, and he hadn't been around so much since then. I thought maybe there was something there worth checking out, but when he ghosted, I knew it was a sign to let it go. And I did. So why was he cropping up again? I tried catching Berg's eye as I thanked everyone and announced we'd start back up after a break, but he was busy chatting up some chick at the bar. Damn. I really could have used him as a buffer. He was always up for some light flirting, and maybe I could have even passed him off as my boyfriend. Or at least my hookup. It took only a few seconds to shut down the machine and secure the mics, not nearly long enough to prepare myself for what I knew was coming. And then there he was, making the hairs on the back of my neck stand at attention even as my back was turned to him. Ariana, how are you? I'd forgotten how his voice could drip over a girl like honey with his words almost running together. Southern drawls didn't do a thing for me, generally speaking, but on Jack's, it sounded like sex. Slow, hot, dirty sex. Damn it. I forced a pleasantly surprised expression and turned to him, not at all prepared for the 1-2 punch of that smile and those eyes. Oh, mio Dio. One side of his mouth hitched higher than the other, and those cobalt gems were taking in everything I had to give, which was a lot given the dress I wore. Jax's hands were shoved in his front pockets, and his weight rested on one hip encased in a pair of blue jeans I'd bet money had not one scrap of material between them and his sweet ass. Well, if it isn't Jax Crosby, you've been keeping yourself to yourself these days, haven't you? I was careful to put him on the defensive, if only to buy myself a moment to gather my wits. He nodded slowly, not commenting, just standing there letting the room move around him at its chosen pace while he remained his usual slow and easy. Damn the man. Couldn't he at least pretend to be flustered one frickin' time? So, of course, I kept talking. What brings you here tonight? I looked around the bar filled with 20-somethings with its dirty floor, dim lighting, and rickety tables. It was called The Last Stop for a reason. I wouldn't have pegged this as your scene. But what did I know, really? For all the flirty glances and drawled words, the man never really did say much at all when it came down to it. Jax lifted his chin. Came to see you, Ariana. My thighs clenched together. Why did he have to say my name like that? Why couldn't he just call me Ari like every other person I knew? I pushed down the southern flutters. Well, now, a girl never tires of hearing that. I wound the power cord from the karaoke deck around my hand and elbow just to give myself something to do. It wasn't nearly long enough to help much, though, and pretty soon I was just standing there with my arm tied in a cord. Jax looked down at his stupid boots, and I swear he was hiding another smile. How about a drink? I resorted to the one surefire thing to calm my nerves and get me out of this. And besides, if Berg wasn't going to fork over the money he owed me, at least the least he could do was buy me a damn drink, right? But I had a feeling this might be something alcohol couldn't begin to make a dent in. I need to hire you for singing lessons. I nearly choked on my martini. Jax kept his eyes on the bar top when he spun his beer bottle in slow circles. Excuse me? He couldn't have shocked me deeper if he'd suddenly sprouted a horn on a rainbow-colored mane. He squinted as he tilted his head halfway toward me where I perched on the bar stool. He'd chosen to stand for some reason, but that was okay with me because it put us at equal heights when he leaned his elbows onto the bar. Not for me, darlin'. I tossed my hand out, trying to ignore what his last word did in my ovaries, easy wenches that they were. Well, how was I supposed to know? Who's it for, then? He waited silently, his eyes going back to his apparently fascinating beer. 3 sips of martini later, he finally responded with an answer that couldn't possibly be less helpful. Just somebody I know. Wow, Jax. I shoved my drink aside for the moment and swiveled toward him. Don't share all at once. My movement bared a decent slice of bare thigh, and I didn't miss the way his eyes lingered for a moment. When he frowned at me and lifted his beer for a swallow, I tried not to watch his throat as it went down. Jax always kept a dusting of scruff that often bled down to his neck when he let it go, which perfectly suited his lazy appearance. At the moment, it annoyed me as it pointed the way for my eyes to follow the rise and fall of his Adam's apple. Okay, fine. Don't tell me. But you do realize I'm going to meet this mystery person if I agree to the lessons, right? Why was I even considering this? I'd never given singing lessons in my life. Oh, right. The cash. His bottle settled on the bar again, and he finally turned all the way to me, the few lights above the bar making the tips of his blonde hair almost translucent. I'm just trying to do something nice. Can you do the lessons or not? I'll pay you, of course. It would be a bald-faced lie to say I wasn't intrigued. I really didn't know all that much about the man, despite meeting him numerous times, so it could conceivably be anyone he was hiring me for. Hell, he could have an entire harem he was planning on sending out on a European tour for all I knew, but I was afraid he gleaned enough about me to know I wouldn't turn him down. I loved singing, and everybody knew it. I also loved money, another thing I didn't hide. I'd been working as many jobs as possible since I was 16, trying to secure my future and be smart. I charged $75 an hour. I pulled the number out of the air, but it sounded about right. Time was a commodity, one that ran low in my life. Done. He didn't even hesitate, just tipped his beer up again and polished it off. I was guessing that was a signal that the conversation was over, but again, it felt important to maintain the upper hand. So I drained my martini with my back straight and my tits pushed out, knowing he was getting a nice view, and hoping I might just knock him off his game for a few precious seconds. I slid off my bar stool and licked a drop of the bitter liquid from the corner of my mouth before letting my eyes hit his face again. He was watching my mouth. Well, I need to visit the ladies and get back to work. I'll text you some options for times and we can schedule something for your lessons. I finished. He squinted at me again. It was nice seeing you, Jax. I shot him a forefinger wave and strutted to the back hall toward the nasty-as-hell bathroom, knowing he was watching my ass while, at the same time, I wondered what the hell I was due playing with firing. Chapter 2. The Trouble with Women. Jax. Don't even think about it, asshole, I muttered into my empty beer bottle before dropping it back to the bar top, completely disgusted with myself. She had me turned so inside out I was sucking on an empty beer for Christ's sake. My eyes stayed on her full ass until she swung it around the corner, and all I had was the sweet memory of it to keep me company. Ariana Amante had a way of fucking with my mind, even when she didn't mean to. Not that I didn't see the clear delight in her eyes when she purposely challenged me, which was often. And every damn time it made me hard, something I should have remembered before I hunted her down tonight. My dick was going to have zipper marks tattooed on it if I didn't get the hell out of here. I flagged down the bartender, the same one who'd been sending Ariana puppy eyes all night, and asked for the check. I got hers. You can pay for yours, the kid said. I gave him my best no fucking way glare and held up a 20 between my fingers before dropping it on the bar between us. This'll cover both. Then I pushed back from the bar and walked off before he could respond. I couldn't blame the kid for panting after Ariana. She was every man's wet dream with her golden bronze skin, long silky hair, and banging body with more curves than a Formula One circuit. But he didn't stand a chance in hell with a girl like her. She played with boys. This much I knew already. I'd considered letting her try her game on me, then showing her what it was like to date a man for a change, but that was before I'd gotten myself into a cluster the likes of which hadn't been seen since Pete Rose decided to give gambling a try. And that right there was how I'd found my nearly 40-year-old self crashing a karaoke party at a shit bar downtown full of drunk kids and lovesick bartenders. Yeah, that was about on par for how things had been going lately for Jax Crosby. Now, I pride myself on not letting shit get to me, but damn if God wasn't laughing like the devil himself at my ass lately. But I had a plan, as usual, one designed to return my life to its comfortable normal and rid myself of this unsettled feeling that had become my constant companion these last months. That meant regaining control and keeping complications to a minimum. It also meant that this wasn't the right moment to give the time or inclination to taking on an experiment like Ariana, because that's what it would have been. An experiment. Nothing more.